Hey. Can't sleep? It's a bit of a later night for me as well. But isn't it kind of nice? Just watching the rain. It helps cool off from the worries of the day, no? Help yourself to a seat. Maybe I can help get you into the mood. Do you want some tea? Don't worry, it is freshly brewed and there's no caffeine. I have my favorite for bedtime, which is a light chamomile, just slightly herbal, and very soothing. I have a bit of a late night snack as well for myself, which is a nice bowl of soup left over from dinner. So help yourself if you want any too. Well, is there anything you tend to do when you can't sleep? I find myself very fidgety, so I like to get that out of the way before I settle in. But I don't know. Sometimes the sounds of nature are a bit distracting. I mean, how can we really compete, right? I don't know why, but it's very soothing on rainy nights to just read a book or two and let myself live in the world that the words paint instead of my own for a while. But I can't read anything too stressful. I feel like if I start something that's an adventure, there's no way I'm putting it down until I know how the ending goes. So before I know it, the sun's up, and I haven't gotten any sleep at all. So nowadays, I tend to just read something soft and romantic. Perhaps one of my favorite poems, or a short classic where I know how it'll end, so I don't have to worry if it's good or not. Are you much for poetry yourself? I just like the ones that are especially well, playful, I think, with the language. Not necessarily too deep. There's just a quiet lyrical beauty to the way they rhymed. And I imagine how many years of people, generations, have repeated these same lines in different tones, whether to themselves or perhaps a loved one. After all, poetry is, in many ways, an auditory art. I feel like it's almost meant to be read aloud. Although I do like the physical shape of the words in print. I'm always tempted to get those vintage cover collections myself. It's not very convenient, to be honest. If you want any close at hand, that is, but something about holding it close and flipping through the pages makes it feel extra special. Don't you think? Well, I'm not sure which ones would be good for a night like tonight. Would you prefer something more calming? Or whimsical? I do like the silly ones myself. Perhaps let me go through my collection and see. Well, I don't know if this one will put you to sleep, but do you mind if I start off with some silly ones then? If you don't have a preference. I have this collection of cat poems that are my absolute favorite. If you have heard of the musical Cats, you probably know all of them, but it is the Old Possum's Book of Practical Cats by T.S. Eliot. They are all eccentric and very lighthearted. So, something to read when I'm around looking for a lighter mood. let's skip over some of the drier ones. But I don't think I can ever skip the first one, which is the naming of cats. It's just so perfect. Just so apt, the way he captures the nature of cats and their attitude. Did you get yourself comfortable? Alright, let me start then. The naming of cats is a difficult matter. It isn't just one of your holiday games. You may think at first I'm as mad as a hatter when I tell you a cat must have 3 different names. First of all, there's the name that the family use daily, such as Peter, Augustus, Alonzo, or James, such as Victor or Jonathan, George or Bill Bailey, all of them sensible, everyday names. There are fancier names, if you think they sound sweeter. Some for the gentlemen, some for the dames, such as Plato, Admetus, Electra, Demeter. But all of them sensible, everyday names. But I tell you, a cat needs a name that's particular, a name that's peculiar and more dignified. Else how can he keep up his tail perpendicular, or spread out his whiskers, or cherish his pride? Of names of this kind, I can give you a quorum, such as Monkoostrap, Quaxo, or Coricopat, such as Bomb Ballerina, or else Jellicle, names that never belong to more than one cat. But above and beyond, there's still one name left over. And that is the name that you never will guess. That name that no human research can discover, but the cat himself knows and will never confess. When you notice a cat in profound meditation, the reason I tell you is always the same. His mind is engaged in a rapt contemplation of the thought of his name, his ineffable, effable, deep and inscrutable, singular name. And that is The Naming of Cats by T.S. Eliot. It seems like it does summon some cats in the neighborhood to mess around. They know that their secret is being leaked. How silly. Well, these cats would never, ever confess their own personal, private matters, such as their name. So, one can imagine a name cat like Jellicle being particularly proud. But actually, my personal favorite cat from cats is Monkoostrap. And I don't know why. He's kind of a gray striped tomcat. I think he just gets a little bit of a center attention and some nicer dances and the musical. that some of these cats get a bit more mention throughout this book of poems. The ones that get their own little song and dance, such as the Gumby cat, which is Jenny Anytots, or the Railroad cat, or the star of the show. In my opinion, the star should be the Magician cat. Skimble Shakes is kind of cute. Honestly, if I ever owned a cat, I'd be quite tempted to use one of these names. Did you know that in writing the musical, they actually looked at some old unpublished poems? And that is how Memory came about. So, Memory was not part of this initial compilation because all of these poems are meant to be children's poems. They're light and silly, and they don't deal with anything dark or heavy. But Memory is a lament about age and what once was, so he felt it was out of place and never published it himself. Well, if you happen to be a cat lover like me, you'll love the rest of these. But I must admit some of them work a little bit better when it comes to musical numbers. They are, after all, meant to be very silly. Like the Jellicle cats that come out tonight. Jellicle cats, come one and all. The Jellicle moon is shining bright. Jellicles come to the Jellicle ball. Jellicle cats are black and white. Jellicle cats are rather small. Jellicle cats are merry and bright and pleasant to hear when they caterwaul. Jellicle cats have cheerful faces. Jellicle cats have bright black eyes. They like to practice their airs and graces and wait for the Jellicle moon to rise. Jellicle cats develop slowly. Jellicle cats are not too big. Jellicle cats are roly-poly. They know how to dance a gavotte and a jig. Until the Jellicle moon appears, they make their toilet and take their repose. Jellicles wash behind their ears. Jellicles dry between their toes. Jellicle cats are white and black. Jellicle cats are of moderate size. Jellicles jump like a jumping jack. Jellicle cats have moonlit eyes. They're quiet enough in the morning hours. They're quiet enough in the afternoon, reserving their Terpsichorean powers to dance by the light of a Jellicle moon. Jellicle cats are black and white. Jellicle cats, as I said, are small. If it happens to be a stormy night, they will practice a caper or two in the hall. If it happens the sun is shining bright, you would say they had nothing to do at all. They are resting and saving themselves to be right for the Jellicle moon and the Jellicle ball. That is the song of the Jellicle cats. And that is reason why your cats have zoos. They like to dance under the moonlight, as is their right and their tradition. These are all by T.S. Eliot, so they're all easy to find, in case you ever want to read the rest of them. Let me see. Those two in particular are not sung at all in the musical, but rather recited, just like that. And that is what makes them, in my opinion, a little underrated. Although perhaps just hearing the words without the visuals for once, without any distractions, allows you to just envision your own version throughout the lines with your own imagination, right? Wondering how exactly these little jellicles tumble about and look as ordinary, cute little cats. Maybe we should go back a little bit in time. I feel like there's quite a few older poems that, no matter how many times you hear it, you just feel soothed by how beautiful it is. Well, everyone knows Shakespeare, but I've always wanted to be one of those people that could just recite poetry off the top of their head. But alas, the only thing I can do is unfortunate phrases. Perhaps memes are the modern century version of poetry they might recite to each other. What do you think? Like, for example, everyone tends to know, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? But I don't think I know anything more than the first 3 lines. I always have to look it up. But it's one of Shakespeare's most, well known, right? Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's leaf hath all too short a date. Sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed, and every fair from fair sometime declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest, nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. Modern Riz truly does not compare. Honestly, I can't really blame them. Shakespeare got there first, huh? I know, speaking of love poems, I feel like I remember Lord Byron as another rather well-known romantic poet. Although they're a bit cliche, they're nice to just listen to before bed, anyway. Where nothing needs to be taken for more than the words say. I feel like perhaps this one is most popular. Which is She Walks in Beauty. She walks in beauty like the night of cloudless climes and starry skies, and all that's best of dark and bright meet in her aspect and her eyes, thus mellowed to that tender light which heaven to gaudy day denies. One shade the more, one ray the less, had half impaired the nameless grace which waves in every raven tress, or softly lightens o'er her face, where thoughts serenely sweet express how pure, how dear their dwelling place. And on that cheek and o'er that brow, so soft, so calm, yet eloquent, the smiles that win, the tints that glow, but tell of days in goodness spent, a mind at peace with all below, a heart whose love is innocent. I wonder what kind of woman truly looked like that, or if he was just flattering her, or just envisioning in an ideal. It feels like the most beautiful people exist eternally captured in art. So how lucky it must be to be loved by someone with the heart of a poet. Sadly, I feel like I would be the poet. And the onus of flattery and writing lies on me for any future people who would like to be flattered in such a manner. Although, I suppose there aren't enough poems about beautiful men now, are there? Maybe that is an oversight that I can fill. Although I feel like in history, tragedy always strikes the beautiful. So they are the most well remembered, but always locked away due to the nature of being the most desirable. So perhaps it's better to look a little more homely rather than cursed somehow by a jealous god or locked away by a selfish ruler. There is one of my favorite poems where it doesn't really tell us the nature of the curse, but the lady is the quintessential maiden, trapped in her tower with no escape. And it is the Lady of Shalott by Alfred Lord Tennyson. It's a bit of a longer poem, and it is related to the Arthurian legends, if a bit loosely, since she herself never gets to do anything, but ends up pining to death over Sir Lancelot. And it makes quite a lovely rhyme, despite the tragedy. So, it's one of my go-tos. The Lady of Shalott. On either side the river lie long fields of barley and of rye that clothe the wold and meet the sky, and through the fields the road runs by to many towered Camelot. The yellow-leaved water lily, the green-sheathed daffodilly, tremble in the water chilly, round about Shalott. Willows whiten, aspens shiver, the sunbeam showers break and quiver, and the stream that runneth ever by the island in the river, flowing down to Camelot. 4 grey walls and 4 grey towers overlook a space of flowers, a silent isle embowers the Lady of Shalott. Underneath the bearded barley, the reaper reaping late and early hears her ever chanting cheerily, like an angel singing clearly o'er the stream of Camelot, piling the sheaves and furrows airy beneath the moon. The reaper weary, listening, whispers, "'Tis the fairy Lady of Shalott." The little isle is all enrailed with a rose fence and over-trailed with roses by the marge unhailed. The shallop flitteth silken sailed, skimming down to Camelot. A pearl garland winds her hair, she leaneth on a velvet bed, full royally apparelled, the Lady of Shalott. No time hath she to sport and play, a charmed web she weaves away. A curse is on her if she stay her weaving either night or day, to look down to Camelot. She knows not what the curse may be, therefore she weaveth steadily, therefore no other care hath she, the Lady of Shalott. She lives with little joy or fear, over the water running near. The sheep bell tinkles in her ear, before her hangs a mirror clear, reflecting towered Camelot. And as the mazy web she whirls, she sees the surly village churls, and the red cloaks of the market girls pass onward from Shalott. Sometimes a troop of damsels glad, an abbot on an ambling pad, sometimes a curly shepherd lad, or long-haired page in crimson clad, goes by to towered Camelot. And sometimes through the mirror blue, the knights come riding two and two. She hath no loyal knight and true, the Lady of Shalott. But in her web she still delights to weave the mirror's magic sights. For oft through the silent nights, a funeral with plumes and lights, and music came from Camelot. Or when the moon was overhead, came two young lovers lately wed. I am half sick of shadows, said the Lady of Shalott. A bow shot from her bower eaves, he rode between the barley sheaves. The sun came dazzling through the leaves, and flamed upon the brazen greaves of bold Sir A Red Cross knight forever kneeled to a lady in his shield that sparkled on the yellow field beside remote Shalott. The gemmy bridle glittered free, like to some branch of stars we see, hung in the golden galaxy. The bridal bells rang merrily as he rode down from Camelot. and from his blazoned baldric slung a mighty silver bugle hung, and as he rode, his armor rung beside remote Shalott. All in the blue, unclouded weather, thick jeweled shone the saddle leather, the helmet and the helmet feather burned like one burning flame together as he rode down from Camelot. As often through the purple night, below the starry clusters bright, some bearded meteor trailing light moves over green Shalott. His broad, clear brow in sunlight glowed, unburnished hooves his warhorse trode. From underneath his helmet flowed his coal-black curls as on he rode down from Camelot. From the bank and from the river he flashed into the crystal mirror. Tira lira, sang Sir Lancelot. She left the web, she left the loom, she made 3 paces through the room. She saw the water flower bloom, she saw the helmet and the plume. She looked down to Camelot. Out flew the web and floated wide. The mirror cracked from side to side. The curse is come upon me, cried the Lady of Shalott. In the stormy east wind straining, the pale yellow woods were waning. The broad stream and his banks complaining, heavily the low sky raining, overtowered Camelot. Outside the isle a shallow boat beneath a willow lay afloat. Below the cavern's stern she wrote, the Lady of Shalott. A cloud-white crown of pearl she dight, all raimented in snowy white, that loosely flew, her zone in sight, clasped with one blinding diamond bright, her wide eyes fixed on Camelot. Though the squally east wind keenly blew with folded arms serenely, by the water stood the queenly Lady of Shalott. With a steady stony glance, like some bold seer in a trance, beholding all his own mischance, mute with the glassy countenance, she looked down to Camelot. It was the closing of the day. She loosed the chain and down she lay. The broad stream bore her far away, the Lady of Shalott. As when to sailors while they roam by creeks and outfalls far from home, rising and dropping with the foam, from dying swans wild warblings come, blown shoreward so to Camelot. Still as the boat had wound along the willowy hills and fields among, they heard her chanting her death song, the Lady of Shalott. a long-drawn carol, mournful, holy. She chanted loudly, chanted lowly, till her eyes were darkened wholly, and her smooth face sharpened slowly, turned to towered Camelot. For ere she reached upon the tide, the first house by the water side, singing in her song she died, the Lady of Shalott. Under tower and balcony, by garden wall and gallery, a pale, pale corpse she floated by, death cold beneath the houses high, dead into towered Camelot. Knight and burgher, lord and dame, to the planked wharfage came. Below the stern they read her name, the Lady of Shalott. They crossed themselves, their stars they blessed, knights, minstrel, abbot, squire, and guest. There lay a parchment on her breast that puzzled more than all the rest. The well-fed wits at Camelot. The web was woven curiously, the charm is broken utterly. Draw near and fear not. This is I, the Lady of Shalott. Beautiful until death took her for daring to want what she couldn't have. By Lord Tennyson. A tragic but lyrical and very beautiful poem. So it remains one of my favorites. Although the mystery remains of why she was locked away in her tower, away from the hustle and bustle of a town that never knew she existed until she floated by in perfect beauty. There is another longer poem that is slightly haunting, but ends much more happily. And I do believe they must have read this to children to scare them away from wandering off. It is not quite as historied as that one, but I love a good fantasy, and the world building is still as delightful as it can be terrifying. It is called The Goblin Market by Christina Rosetti. The Goblin Market for naughty children that wander off without their parents will be taken by those nasty fae who only know tricks. once heard the goblins cry, "Come buy our orchard fruits, come buy, come buy." Apples and quinces, lemons and oranges, plump unpacked cherries, melons and raspberries, bloom down-cheeked peaches, sword-headed mulberries, wild free-born cranberries, crab apples, dewberries, pineapples, blackberries, apricots, strawberries, all ripe together in summer weather. Morns that fly by, fair eves that fly. Come buy, come buy, our grapes fresh from the vine, pomegranates full and fine, dates and sharp boluses, rare pears and green cages, damsons and bilberries, hyssop and try, currants and gooseberries, bright fire like barberries, figs to fill your mouth, citrons from the south, sweet to tongue and sound to eye. Come buy, come buy. Evening by evening, among the brookside rushes, Laura bowed her head to hear. Lizzie veiled her blushes, crouching close together in the cooling weather, with clasping arms and cautioning lips, with tingling cheeks and fingertips. Legless, Laura said, pricking up her golden head. We must not look at goblin men. We must not buy their fruits. Who knows upon what soil they fed their hungry, thirsty roots? Come buy, call the goblins, hobbling down the glen. Oh, cried Lizzie, Laura, Laura, you must not peep at goblin men. Lizzie covered up her eyes, covered close lest they look. Laura reared her glossy head and whispered like the restless brook, Look, Lizzie, look, Lizzie. Down the glen tramp little men. One hauls a basket, one bears a plate, one lights a golden dish of many pounds weight. How fair the vine must grow, whose grapes are so luscious. How warm the wind must blow through those fruit bushes. No, said Lizzie, no, no, no. Their offers should not charm us. Their evil gifts would harm us. She thrust a dimpled finger in each ear, shut eyes and ran. Curious Laura chose to linger, wondering at each merchant man. One had a cat's face, one whisked a tail, one tramped at a rat's pace, one crawled like a snail, one like a wombat prowled obtuse and furry, one like a rattle tumbled hurry, scurry. She heard a voice like a voice of doves, cooing all together. They sounded kind and full of loves in the pleasant weather. Laura stretched her gleaming neck like a rush-embedded swan, like a lily from the beck, like a moonlit poplar branch, like when its last restraint is gone. Backwards up the mossy glen turned and trooped the goblin men, with their shrill repeated cry, "Come by, come by." When they reached where Laura was, they stood stock still upon the moss, leering at each other, brother with queer brother, signaling each other. Brother with sly brother. One set his basket down, one reared his plate, one began to weave a crown of tendrils, leaves, and rough nuts brown. Men sell not such in any town. One heaved the golden weight of dish and fruit to offer her. "Come by," was still their cry. Laura stared, but did not stir, longed, but had no money. The whisk-tailed merchant bade her taste in tones as smooth as honey. The cat-face purred, the rat-face spoke a word of welcome, and the snail-paced even was heard. One parrot-voiced and jolly cried, "Pretty goblin still," for pretty Polly. One whistled like a bird. But sweet-toothed Laura spoke in haste. "Good folk, I have no coin to take whereto purloin. I have no copper in my purse. I have no silver either. And all my gold is on the furze that shakes in windy weather, above the rusty heather. You have much gold upon your head," they answered all together. "Buy from us with a golden curl." She clipped a precious golden lock. She dropped a tear more rare than pearl, then sucked their fruit globes fair or red, sweeter than honey from the rock, stronger than man rejoicing wine, clearer than water flowed that juice. She never tasted such before. How should it cloy with length of use? She sucked and sucked and sucked the more fruits which that unknown orchard bore. She sucked until her lips were sore, then flung the empty rinds away, but gathered up one kernel stone, and knew not was it night or day, as she turned home alone. Lizzie met her at the gate, full of wise upbraidings. "Dear, you should not stay so late. Twilight is not good for maidens. Should not loiter in the glen, in the haunts of goblin men. Do you not remember, Jeanie, how she met them in the moonlight, took their gifts, both choice and many, ate their fruits and wore their flowers, plucked from bowers where summer ripens at all hours? But ever in the moonlight she pined and pined away, sought them night and day, found them no more, but dwindled and grew gray, then fell with the first snow, while to this day no grass will grow where she lies low. I planted daisies there a year ago, that never blow. You should not loiter so. Nay, hush, said Laura. Nay, hush, my sister. I ate and ate my fill, yet my mouth waters still. Tomorrow night I will buy more, and kiss her. Have done with sorrow. I'll bring you plums tomorrow, fresh on their mother twigs, cherries worth getting. You cannot think what figs my teeth have met in, what melons icy cold, piled on a dish of gold, too huge for me to hold, what peaches with a velvet nap, pellucid grapes without one seed. Oh, odorous indeed must be the mead whereon they grow, and pure the wave they drink, with lilies at the brink, and sugar sweet their sap. Golden head by golden head, like two pigeons in one nest, folded in each other's wings, they lay down in their curtained bed, like two blossoms on one stem, like two flakes of new-fallen snow, like two wands of ivory, tipped with gold for awful kings. Moon and stars gazed in at them, wind sang to them a lullaby, lumbering owls forbore to fly, not a bat flapped to and fro round their rest, cheek to cheek and breast to breast, locked together in a nest. Early in the morning, and the first cock crowed his warning, neat like bees as sweet and busy, Laura rose with Lizzie, fetched in milk, grabbed the honey, and milked the cows, aired and set to rights the house, kneaded cakes of whitest wheat, cakes for dainty mouths to eat. Next churned butter, whipped up cream, fed their poultry, sat and sewed, taught as modest maidens should. Lizzie with an open heart, Laura in an absent dream, one content, one sick in part, one warbling for the mere bright day's delight, one longing for the night. At length slow evening came, they went with pitchers to the reedy brook, Lizzie most placid in her look, Laura most like a leaping flame. They drew the gurgling water from its deep, Lizzie plucked purple and rich golden flags, then turned homeward, said, the sunset flushes those furthest, loftiest crags. Come, Laura, not another maiden lags, no wilful squirrel wags. The beasts and birds are fast asleep, but Laura loitered still among the rushes, and said the bank was steep, and said the hour was early still, the dew not fallen, the wind not chill, listening ever, but not catching the customary cry, come by, with its iterated jingle of sugar-baited words, not for all her watching once discerning even one goblin, racing, whisking, tumbling, hobbling, let alone the herds that used to tramp along the glen in groups or single, of brisk fruit merchant men, till Lizzie urged, "O Laura, come, I hear the fruit call, but I dare not look. You should not loiter longer at this brook. Come with me home." The stars rise, the moon bends her arc, each glowworm winks her spark. Let us get home before the night grows dark, for clouds may gather, though this is summer weather. Put out the lights and drench us through. Then if we lost our way, what should we do? Laura turned cold as stone to find her sister heard that cry alone. That goblin's cry, "Come buy our fruits, come buy." Must she then buy no more such dainty fruits? Must she no more such succous pasture find? Gone deaf and blind, her tree of life drooped from the root. She said not one word in her heart's sore ache, but peering through the dimness not discerning, trudged home, her pitcher dripping all the way. So crept to bed and lay silent till Lizzie slept, then sat up in a passionate yearning, and gnashed her teeth for balked desire, and wept as if her heart would break. Day after day, night after night, Laura kept watch in vain. In sullen silence of exceeding pain, she never caught again the goblin cry, "Come buy, come buy." She never spied the goblin men hawking their fruits along the glen. But when the noon waxed bright, her hair grew thin and gray. She dwindled as the fair full moon doth turn to swift decay, and burn her fire away. One day, remembering her kernel stone, she set it by a wall that faced south, dewed it with tears, hoped for a root, watched for a waxing shoot. But there came none. It never saw the sun. It never felt the trickling moisture run, while with sunk eyes and faded mouth she dreamed of melons as a traveler sees false waves in desert drouth, with shade of leaf-crowned trees, and birds the thirstier in the sandful breeze. She no more swept the house, tended the fowls or cows, fetched the honey, kneaded cakes of wheat, brought water from the brook, but sat down listless in the chimney nook, and would not eat. Tender Lizzie could not bear to watch her sister's cankerous care, yet not to share. She night and morning caught the goblin's cry, "Come buy our orchard fruits, come buy, come buy." Beside the brook, along the glen, she heard the tramp of goblin men, the yoke and stir. Poor Laura could not hear, longed to buy fruit to comfort her, but feared to pay too dear. She thought of Jeannie in her grave, who should have been a bride, but who for joys brides hope to have, fell sick and died in her gay prime. In earliest winter time, with the first glazing rime, with the first snowfall of crisp winter time, till Laura, dwindling, seemed knocking at death's door. Then Lizzie weighed no more, better and worse, but put a silver penny in her purse, kissed Laura, crossed the heath with clumps of furze, at twilight halted by the brook, and for the first time in her life began to listen and look. Laugh every goblin when they spied her peeping, came towards her hobbling, flying, running, leaping, puffing and blowing, chuckling, clapping, crowing, clucking and gobbling, mopping and mowing, full of airs and graces, pulling wry faces, demure grimaces, cat-like and rat-like, rattle and wombat-like, snail-paced in a hurry, parrot-voiced and whistler, helter-skelter, hurry-scurry, chattering like magpies, fluttering like pigeons, gliding like fishes, hugged her and kissed her, squeezed and caressed her, stretched up their dishes, panniers and plates. Look at our apples, russet and dun. Bob at our cherries, bite at our peaches, citrons and dates, grapes for the asking, pears red with basking out in the sun, plums on their twigs, pluck them and suck them, pomegranates, figs. Good folk, said Lizzie, mindful of Jeannie, give me much, and give me many, held out her apron, tossed them her penny. Nay, take a seat with us, honor and eat with us, they answered, grinning. Our feast is but beginning. Night yet is early, warm and dew pearly, wakeful and starry, such fruits as these no man can carry. Half their bloom would fly, half their dew would dry, half their flavor would pass by. Sit down and feast with us, be welcome guests with us, cheer you and rest with us. Thank you, said Lizzie, but one waits at home alone for me. So without further parleying, if you will not sell me any of your fruits, though much and many, give me back my silver penny I tossed you for a fee. They began to scratch their pates, no longer wagging, purring, but visibly demurring, grunting and snarling. One called her proud, cross-grained, uncivil. Their tones tails. They trod and hustled her, elbowed and jostled her, clawed with their nails, barking, mewing, hissing, mocking, tore her gown and soiled her stocking, twitched her hair out by the roots, stamped upon her tender feet, held her hands and squeezed their fruits against her mouth to make her eat. White and golden Lizzie stood, like a lily in a flood, like a rock of blue-veined stone, lashed by tides obstreperously, like a beacon left alone in a hoary, roaring sea, sending up a golden fire like a fruit-crowned orange tree, white with blossoms honey sweet, sore beset the wasp and bee, like a royal virgin town, topped with gilded dome and spire, close beleaguered by a fleet, mad to tug her standard down. One may lead a horse to water, 20 cannot make him drink, though the goblins cuffed and caught her, coaxed and fought her, bullied and besought her, scratched her, pinched her black as ink, kicked and knocked her, mauled and mocked her. Lizzie uttered not a word, would not open lip from lip, lest they should cram a mouthful in, but laughed in heart to feel the drip of juice that syruped all her face and lodged in dimples of her chin, and streaked her neck, which quaked like curd. At last the evil people, worn out by her resistance, flung back her penny, kicked their fruit along whichever road they took, not leaving root or stone or shoot. Some writhed into the ground, some dived into the brook with ring and ripple, some scudded on the gale without a sound, some vanished into the distance. In a smart ache tingle, Lizzie went her way, knew not was it night or day, sprang up the bank, tore through the firs, threaded copse and dingle, and heard her penny jingle, bouncing in her purse. Its bounce was music to her ear. She ran and ran, as if she feared some goblin man dogged her with gibe or curse, or something worse. But not one goblin scurried after, nor was she pricked by fear. The kind heart made her windy pace, that urged her home quite out of breath with haste and inward laughter. She cried, "Laura," up the garden. "Did you miss me? Come and kiss me. Never mind my bruises. Hug me, kiss me, and suck my juices squeezed from goblin fruits for you. Goblin pulp and goblin dew. Eat me, drink me, love me. Laura, make much of me. For your sake I have braved the glen, and had to do with goblin merchant men. Laura stared from her chair, flung her arms up in the air, clutched her hair. Lizzie, Lizzie, have you tasted, for my sake, the fruit forbidden? Must your light like mine be hidden? Your young life like mine be wasted? Undone in mine undoing, and ruined in my ruin. Thirsty, cankered, goblin-ridden, she clung about her sister, and kissed, and kissed, and kissed her. Tears once again refreshed her shrunken eyes, dropping like rain after a long, sultry drought. Shaking with anguish, fear, and pain, she kissed and kissed her with a hungry mouth. Her lips began to scorch. That juice was wormwood to her tongue. She loathed the feast, writhing as one possessed. She leaped and sung, rent all her robe and wrung her hands in lamentable haste, and beat her breast. Her locks streamed like the torch, borne by a racer at full speed, or like the mane of horses in their flight, or like an eagle when she stamps the light, straight toward the sun, or like a caged thing freed, or like a flying flag when armies run. Swift fire spread through her veins, knocked at her heart, met the fire smoldering there, and overbore its lesser flame. She gorged on bitterness without a name, a fool to choose such a part of soul-consuming care. Sense failed in the mortal strife, like the watchtower of a town which an earthquake shatters down, like a lightning-stricken mast, like a wind-uprooted tree, spun about, like a foam-topped water-spout, cast down headlong in the sea. She fell at last. Pleasure past, and anguish past. Is it death, or is it life? Life out of death. That night long, Lizzie watched by her, counted her pulses' flagging stir, felt for her breath, held water to her lips, and cooled her face with tears and fanning leaves. But when the first birds chirped about their eaves, and early reapers plodded to the place of golden sheaves and dew-wet grass, bowed in the morning winds, so brisk to pass, and new buds with new day opened of cup-like lilies on the stream. Laura woke as from a dream, laughed in the innocent old way, hugged Lizzie, not twice, but thrice. Her gleaming locks showed not one thread of gray. Her breath was sweet as May, and light danced in her eyes. Days, weeks, months, years afterwards, when both were wives, with children of their own, their mother hearts beset with fears, their lives bound up in tender lives, Laura would call the little ones and tell them of her early prime, those pleasant days long gone, of not returning time. Would talk about the haunted glen, the wicked quaint fruit merchant men, their fruits like honey to the throat, but poison in the blood. Men sell not such in any town. Would tell them how her sister stood on deadly peril to do her good, and win the fiery antidote. Then joining hands to little hands, would bid them cling together, for there is no friend like a sister in calm or stormy weather, to cheer one on the tedious way, to fetch one if one goes astray, to lift one if one totters down, to strengthen whilst one stands. And that is the poem of the Goblin Market. So, if ever you hear upon the wind the calls of goblin merchant men, come by, make sure to avert your eyes. Ready? Are you feeling a little more sleepier than before? It is almost your bedtime now, and we need you nice and relaxed and ready for bed. So, let me send you off with this last short classic little picture book. So close your eyes, close your eyes. Relax, and rest. And with every word I say, will you envision your own picture to count until sleep takes you? This is the last story. It is called Goodnight, Moon by Margaret Wise Brown. It works a little better with the pictures accompanying it, but use your imagination and think only of pleasant things as you drift off, alright? In the great green room, there was a telephone and a red balloon and a picture of the cow jumping over the moon. There were 3 little bears sitting on chairs and 2 little kittens and a pair of mittens and a little toy house and a young mouse and a comb and a brush and a bowl full of mush and a quiet old lady who was whispering, "Hush." Good night, room. Good night, moon. Good night, cow jumping over the moon. Good night, light and the red balloon. Good night, bears. Good night, chairs. Good night, kittens, and good night, mittens. Good night, clocks, and good night, socks. Good night, little house, and good night, mouse. Good night, comb, and good night, brush. Good night, nobody, and good night, mush. And good night to the old lady, whispering, hush. Good night, stars, and good night, air. Good night, noises, everywhere. And good night, you, tucked in your bed. Have a good night, you sleepy